So lately I've been thinking with this whole thing going on with the coronavirus and having to realize really we have to be aware of our environment, we have to be aware of our actions, we have to be aware of things we touch, whether it's a surface or your face or shaking hands. And so, one way to think about it is that it's very inconvenient, right? To have to live my life differently. I mean, I have to think about my actions. But as a Buddhist, it's perfect. As a Buddhist, it almost forces us to try and be mindful, right? I think that when we live in just our kind of normal, everyday times, for many of us, if we're lucky, which I have been for years now, I haven't had to think about it too much. Sure, maybe if I get a cold or something, I don't want to pass it on or that kind of thing. And I think that a lot of times with Buddhism and the Buddhist teachings, we kind of come and we listen, we're like, okay, yeah, that sounds good, but maybe don't take it so seriously once we leave the temple. But the kind of situation that we're in now, trying to avoid an epidemic in our community, right, is actually another way to view it. It's terrible to see in the world how many people have become sick and how many people have died even, right? And the extreme measures that some places are having to undertake to try and control this. But as a Buddhist, I think we can view things from different perspectives. And another perspective to view this is, wow, an opportunity to try and be mindful. An opportunity to try and be aware of my impact into the world and my impact on others. And so, what we've been hearing and what we've been trying to tell people is don't shake hands, right? Wash your hands as much as possible, as often as possible, whenever you think of it, for at least 20 seconds, and having to, think about that, and am I doing it long enough? Don't touch your face. And, these are easier said than done, right? One of the funny videos was of a public health official telling people, don't touch your face, and then licking her thumb as she turned her pages of her notes, right? Shaking hands is another one. Within the past week, I've seen people introduce each other and shake hands. And, it's kind of automatic, right? We do it automatically, which another way we could think of is we do it mindlessly, without thinking, right? And sometimes these things that are social conventions or personal habits, right, are just things that we do without thinking. And I think that a part of Buddhism is to try and bring those more into our awareness, right? To try and be more aware of these things. And so to be aware, stop shaking hands, right? To be aware, when am I touching my face? To be aware, when was the last time I washed my hands and what have I done since then, right? Is, as much as, again, it can seem like a real inconvenience, but from a Buddhist perspective, maybe we can turn it around into something more positive, right? And turn it around into almost an exercise, right? An activity, practice, right? Something that we can do as Buddhists. Mindfulness, there's so many different kinds of mindfulness. I think very often it gets a little bit it turns into a thing in and of itself. But Buddhism, I believe, always talks about mindfulness and mindful of what? Right? What are we trying to be mindful of? And there are many things. Right? Mindfulness of Buddhist teachings is one, but which teachings? Right? Mindfulness of impermanence, of change. If you feel stressed out by all these changes we are going through, a lot of it is because our routine is being disrupted. Right? We aren't able to do the things that we normally do without thinking. But again, as a Buddhist, you can realize, oh wait, yeah, this is kind of disruptive. This is a big change. Right? But realizing that changes us. Right? Realizing that, maybe you can realize, okay, maybe I don't have to be so stressed out about it. Right? We can turn it around into a practice. Mindfulness of interconnectedness, right? Just realizing, a lot of times I think we're just this individual walking around in a bubble, but that bubble has been burst. Right? We realize, I'm not in a bubble. I'm deeply connected to the immediate environment I'm in, but also people traveling from different places. Right? We have so much travel through different countries, and even though that's not the only thing, the only issue, it is important in realizing, that all these things impact us so strongly. So, I really just want to encourage us to try and be mindful of these different things. Try and protect yourself, try and take care of yourself, but also try and be aware of your impact on others, right? To try and minimize passing on this potential, illness to others, especially if you're around people who are more vulnerable kind of communities, right? And together, right? We're doing this together. Maybe that's another good thing too, right? It seems like, oh, I have to lock myself away, but we're not doing it just to lock ourselves away. We're doing it for others, right? We're doing it together. We're doing it to try and protect our community. And so as a Buddhist, I feel like these are things that I can just kind of jump onto, right? I can do it. We can do our best to try this, to protect myself and to protect others as well. And this is Buddhist too, right? It's kind of like the aspiration for awakening, right? Wanting to become enlightened. That is such an important part of Buddhism, to realize there's another way, and that's a way that I'd like to embark on. But it also includes caring about others, right? It's not only enlightenment for myself, it's also this aspiration for the enlightenment of all beings, right? And so this really, as much, again, as it seems like a negative thing, and it is terrible, right? It really is sad to see people being hurt and being ill and even dying. And yet, let's try and approach it from a positive perspective and take it as an opportunity to put these Buddhist teachings, that, whether you've been listening for a week or two, or whether you've been listening your whole life, right? We can draw on Buddhist teachings and really take this opportunity to put them into practice for the sake of ourselves and others. And so in our School of Buddhism, we recite Buddha's name, Namo Amida Butsu, and so I'll say it and you can recite it with me if you wish. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.